It's actually very hard to believe, and it's almost sickening when you think about it, that the PlayStation 3 is legitimately almost 20 years old. You know, at times it almost feels like Sony really created a masterpiece back in 2006. And to be honest with you, I think they did. It just seems like it didn't really get the appreciation it deserved at first. Everyone wanted this thing. It was just everywhere. I remember seeing this on YouTube back in the day. This was probably like the most hyped console I've ever witnessed in my life, with good reason. While it may not have gotten off to the greatest start ever, there's no denying that the PlayStation 3 is one of the best consoles ever made. I first got introduced to the PlayStation 3 when I was just tiny. I hope I wasn't that tiny or anything, but I was definitely not that old. I remember seeing this again all over the internet. That was basically how you found out information. At least that's how I did. Unless, like, you read the newspaper or something, which... Is that it? It's hard to think back how long ago that was. I mean, this was, I don't even remember what year it was announced or anything, probably around 04, 05. They even had these like crazy designs for PlayStation 3. The silver one with the crazy controller. There were so many, it was like those videos you saw on YouTube where it was like what the Xbox 720 is going to look like, where it was like a circle and just looked completely futuristic. That's kind of what most of YouTube was back in the day if you watched a lot of gaming videos. Very quick and very boring story before any of this begins. Who cares, idiot? It's just, this is basically how it began. I was never more excited in my life when I first got a PlayStation 3. In fact, I still think about it to this day quite a bit. I think it actually was the happiest day in my life, and I mean that. It's not really anything that I can say. I don't have children yet. I don't have any children. I am married, so... It was a very good day. It was the happiest day of my life. I don't think I've ever been more happy than when I walked into Walmart and saw that one PlayStation 3 system sitting on the shelf. I had to force my mother to take me there because she was basically all pissed off because she got home from work. She told me to shut the hell up and go back downstairs. And I was like, no, Mom, I saved up $800 for this. Remember that? Remember when you had me in the backyard like a fool, mowing the lawn all those months? This is what I saved it for. Take me to Walmart, or I'm running away from home. So she finally did take me, and I was very happy that she did. And it was there that day. So this console has a lot of very good memories in my brain for the most part. In 2024, I completely went back to the original PlayStation 3 and saw once again how beautiful and amazing this system really is. I don't know if it's underappreciated. I feel like as time goes on, more people are understanding how great it was, and maybe at the time how little we did appreciate the PlayStation 3. I feel like at this time on Earth, everybody had a 360. Everybody was talking about it. Everybody played on 360. There wasn't even, it seemed like no one even had a PlayStation 3 on specific parts of the earth. I just was thinking one day, you know what would be really cool? To go back and play some of these games that I once very much loved back in the day. Yes, I played a lot of them on 360, but it was just this generation in general. You know how everyone has like their year in review or whatever, just what people accomplished in 2024? Sometimes it's on the internet. Sometimes people make videos on YouTube of it, just like my year-end review or something. Well, mine is that I realized the PlayStation 3 is an absolute perfect system to still play. This is one of the best consoles of all time, in my opinion. And I really mean that. I grew up in the Nintendo 64, PlayStation 2 generation for the most part. I did not own a PlayStation 1. I don't even know if that has any damn relevance to this video at all. And to be honest with you, I don't even know if anything that I just talked about for however long it's been has any either. So it's probably just a waste of damn time and move the hell on at this point, but this is exactly how I feel. This was very unexpected. It just didn't seem like it was going to be something that I was ever going to do. In fact, I could probably thank Sony again, but for the most part, I'm not really running to play PlayStation 5. Yes, when a new game comes out, like Silent Hill 2, I was running to the PlayStation, but in terms of anything else, probably not. So in fact, Sony may have actually brought my love back for this, because let's be honest, if the PlayStation 5 was the best system of all time or something, probably nobody would ever be going back to play anything. That makes sense? This was more unexpected than watching a manatee walk out of a cake bakery. Just had no idea I was ever going to do this again. You know, it almost feels like the PlayStation 3 is never going to get old, because it seems like this console has so many games to play still. Like, I'm talking, I don't even think I knew some of these games existed on this console just from some of them that I've been looking up on the internet. They basically just appeared in front of my face, like just almost falling from the sky or something. Just randomly finding out games games existed that I never knew existed. This was a great catalog of games. This is probably the last generation Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 where there's so many games to play. And this is something where we're not just dealing with live service games or just something boring and stupid, kind of just worrying about whether or not the game will work, or you just have to basically play the multiplayer mode and you don't even want to do it or something. Like, the games looked really solid. They may not look as good as they do now, obviously, but HD was starting to become a huge thing at this point. Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, the leap from the PlayStation 2 and original Xbox era was something that I thought was historic at the time. It was one of the main things you'd have to think about as you saw some of the new trailers. You walked into a Walmart, you went to the game section, you saw these games on the shelf, and you thought to yourself, wow, this looks alright. This looks pretty damn good, I must say. Like, way better than some of the games I've just been recently playing. I remember playing MotorStorm for the first time and just thinking to myself, wow, this looks nice on my damn standard definition TV right now. I had this big ass box television. I think we got it from like my dead grandfather's house or something. It was like haunted. My mom took me to his apartment after all that happened and just basically started cleaning house, started taking technology. What are we doing here? Are we robbing grandpa right now? Like, it was just like taking everything, this big TV. It's just really nice that we still have a generation that's, I can't even believe it. It's almost 20 years since the 360 actually released. That's scary. Oh my Jesus, that's terrifying actually. The PlayStation 3 was only a year after that. We're almost 2 decades after these two consoles released. And I'm still finding out that some of these games existed. And there's always a chance to play them. It's also kind of nice at this point that we don't have to worry about actually making the wallet suffer in pain from paying for some of these games. You can actually get quite a few a lot actually. You can get a lot of high quality PlayStation 3 games for a good price compared to some other consoles. You don't have to go in there and worry about spending $80 or something. You don't even know what the hell is going on. You're almost in tears by the time you leave the store because it's so traumatizing, the prices on the games sometimes. I was at a game store not that long ago, just looking at some of the PlayStation 2 games. They're like $300. Just earlier this year, I was able to walk into a store and get every Uncharted game for $5 each. Walked out of there, $15 all I spent. You can get some really solid games for cheap. I think one of the coolest things that's still a thing at this point in time, and I really hope it lasts for a while. I'm not really sure if it's ever going to end anytime soon, hopefully. It seems to be slowly kind of going down the list of games where it's just not happening anymore or something, just servers are closing down. Things are kind of changing for the most part, just slowly. It's not just happening all at once, and it's just very dramatic. Not like the Xbox 360 store just shutting down, making everybody almost want to jump head first into their windshield wiper or something. Just not like that. You still have PlayStation 3 Online. That's still up and going. PlayStation 3 Store is still up running too. It kind of runs like absolute giraffe feces, but it actually does work still somehow. You just never in a million years want to use your actual credit card on the PlayStation 3 store or something. You have to basically add your funds on a different console. If anything's sketchy, it's the PlayStation 3 store at this point. I don't even know if something's just gonna crawl out of the monitor at some point. This monitor starts liquefying and everything's melting in front of my face. Scary monster crawling out. Nope, just the PlayStation 3 store. Being able to go back and play games like Modern Warfare 2. The good one, not the absolute embarrassment that just released a couple years ago. The actual fun one, where we all remember where we were when it released. Most Call of Duties seem to work. A lot of the good ones, at least. I'm not talking about new Call of Duty, the good ones from back in the day. We have a lot of amazing human beings out there, getting a lot of communities together, bringing back a lot of games online. Games like MotorStorm are able to be played online. Resistance Fall of Man. That was fun. I actually saw something online as well that Warhawk is able to be played still, just from a community of people that are bringing back all of these legendary PlayStation 3 titles. I haven't been able to get into that. It's just mostly a situation where you kind of have to try to be on at a specific time. There might even be a lot more. Actually, there is a lot more. Know what you're talking about before you say it. I feel like one of the most memorable things about the PlayStation 3 at this point, no matter if you even liked it or not, is PlayStation Home. That was just something where it almost seemed like it was a myth. Did that even really exist? it seemed like it didn't. It was almost like the metaverse before anyone even started talking about it or something. It was just this incredible thing. We had everybody in this like large, or however large you want to call it, this world of people. They created their own avatars. You were able to go into mini games with people inside of this world. You were able to do many things, actually. It was just a very nice experience. And again, the fact that we have very intelligent, smart human beings as well over there at Destination Home, for example. But we have these things that were so good at the time. And they're still fun now. They were gone at once. Or what? That doesn't make any sense. They were gone at one point, and now they're returning, and hopefully they stay forever. There's a lot of things you can do with the PlayStation 3 now. It's not even just about the games you can play. The games are one thing. Yes, there's a lot of them, and yes, there's a lot of really good ones. But there's more than that. If you were able to somehow get a PlayStation 3 Slim, or even super slim, you just went down this crazy ass rabbit hole on YouTube or something, you started looking into PlayStation 3 more. You started seeing that jailbreaking the PlayStation 3 is something that is actually really cool and something that you might consider doing once you see what you can do with it. That's where I was. I was looking at the PlayStation 3 quite a bit and just seeing that, well, is it worth it? And I can tell you, it probably is. Jailbreaking the PlayStation 3 is definitely worth it if you have a console that's actually able to do it. A lot of the earlier PlayStation 3 Slims, you can actually put some custom firmware on this thing. And this is great. It really is. Because at the time that this was first launched, they just completely cut back on backwards compatibility. And one of the great things about jailbreaking the system and putting some custom firmware on it is you can actually make it so you can play PlayStation 2 games on it again. I feel like companies at this point in time don't even really take backwards compatibility. What the hell did I just say? Backwards compatibility seriously anymore? It's just something that is forgotten about and they only really care on. I'm not making any damn sense anymore. They don't really care about it sometimes. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. It just seems like they don't care about it as much as they used to. Like, let's think about this for a second. When the PlayStation 3 first released, the 60GB PlayStation 3, the most beautiful thing you've ever seen in your entire life, this released with full backwards compatibility, PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1. It was basically a PlayStation 2 built in to the PlayStation 3. That's how awesome it was. It was very nice to have one of these things. While it may have been the most expensive thing you've ever seen in your life, and the jailbreaking process makes the PlayStation 3 even more enjoyable, because you can do so many things with it. Backing up your games, not even having to worry about the actual physical disc anymore while you still own it. Just slap in the PlayStation 2 disc in the system, just backing it up to the hard drive, and then that's it. You don't have to worry about the disc anymore. I didn't even know this existed. Like, this is how out of touch I was. I've lived under a rock for most of my life and everything, but this is getting ridiculous over here. Where the hell have I been? If you have a PlayStation 3 Super Slim, you can download this specific thing called the Hen, which is still pretty cool. You still are able to do quite a few things on this, but just depending on what you want to do with jailbreaking the system, if you're ever going to do something like this, it's probably best to really think what is the most important thing for you. I think the only thing better than a jailbroken PS3 would be a Malcolm in the Middle reunion. There's just so many things you can do on something like this. In fact, there's probably quite a few programs and just applications or just software, firmware, anything. I don't even know what word I'm using anymore. There's a lot of things that you can probably do on this that I'm not even aware of right now. It's not even about just jailbreaking. There's many other options to make the PlayStation 3 even more enjoyable as it is anyway. PlayStation 3 emulation seems to be getting better and better. This was something that I was kind of also not really aware of up until a couple months ago, maybe the summer. I was like, what the hell's going on here? Is this going to make my PC just melt into a strawberry pancake or something? I just didn't really know what the hell was going on. Emulation is really good, depending on what it is. You are able to possibly run games at higher resolutions, even higher frame rates. This was honestly a way I was able to play some PS3 games I've never even played before. And that was basically game over at that point, because I was not leaving my room. You would have had to have just kicked a food tray under the door. I wasn't leaving. I'm not exactly sure how many PS3 emulators there is at this point, but there is one that is getting the most attention, it seems like. RPCS3 is probably the best one that I've seen, or just heard of. There's actually a website that tells you the compatibility list as well, which is very important, because the actual emulation menu will let you know if there's any problems within the game, like if the game can even function or something. That's probably very important. You don't want to get these games that don't function or just don't load or something, or just run like absolute horse water or something. You want the game to be able to run correctly or just well, not broken. And now that I'm thinking about it, I don't even think there was many games that I played that were just a complete mess or something. Yeah, there may have been times where the frame rate was dropping and just, unfortunate things like that were happening. I don't know if I really care about that, because I'm just happy that I'm able to sit here and play some games I've never played before in my life. And the fact that it is getting better is awesome, because it already is pretty solid. At this point, it seems like. You don't want things to get worse. That's not good. You want things to get a lot better, and that's where the direction of PS3 emulation is going. At times in my life, I've sat here and thought about if I've made some pretty bad decisions. I'll be honest, I don't think that this was one of them. I think that one of the best decisions I've made recently, whether it sounds completely insane or not, or just stupid, is I went back and I found out how awesome the PlayStation 3 really is. I've probably talked about it way too much this year, actually. But that's how much I'm in love with this thing. It just seems like there's really nothing going on with PlayStation 3 at this point. That's bad. Sometimes it almost feels like people are enjoying PlayStation 3, PlayStation 2, even PlayStation 1 more. Even some of the older Nintendos or something. It's kind of a thing. You see a lot of it. That maybe some people are sick and tired of the new generation. They just kind of wanted to move on. They want to get to the PlayStation 6. They want to get to the whatever the hell the newest Xbox is going to be called. God knows what the hell that'll be called. It'll just be even more confusing than everything already is at this point. But almost 20 years after, and I'll throw the Xbox 360 into this category as well. Because this is really how it is. This is not a lie. And this isn't just me making things up just to basically spit all over the camera screen or something like that. It's actually probably the truth. The 7th generation in gaming, you can even put the Wii in there. These consoles will always live on. The fact that I can even walk into a store or just find out on YouTube that there's many other PlayStation 3 titles I didn't even know existed. And I can go back and play them and still enjoy them very much. It doesn't even feel like this system is really that old sometimes. Yes, the graphics for some games and just other things might be a little bit dated, but that's okay. Sometimes being old is not bad. Depending on what it is, it can be a good thing. Sometimes older is better. I would rather play a game that just doesn't look as good as some of these PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X titles, but having way better gameplay. That's it. I would rather do that. And I feel like there's not many games that I've played on this system recently that I've just completely not enjoyed. This was something that needed to be done. Or I don't know if it needed to be done, it just happened and I'm happy it did, because I have no regrets in doing anything that I did this year. At least in terms of the PlayStation 3, because that is completely not true if it's talking about my actual life. As time goes on, I just really hope that these consoles don't just disappear from our lives. They just continue to evolve with humanity, no matter when it is. If the dinosaurs come back, if the Ice Age freezes everything over again, no matter what the hell happens, there will always be a PlayStation 3 in somebody's house, as somebody might be investigating the scene and just nothing else exists. It's just basically broken shards of wood and nothing on the street, but then there's a PlayStation 3 just sitting in somebody's basement. That's how I feel.